You overshared at work. You didn't mean to, but your coworker was pushing for answers about your personal life. Or you've just learned the hard way that coworkers are not your friends. And now you're ready to reset your work-life boundaries. This has been coming up a lot on my videos here and in my AMA that I have every Wednesday on Instagram. So I wanted to make this video to deep dive into your work-life boundaries so that you know exactly how to keep your life separate from your work life. If you're here for the boundaries and the vibe, give this video a thumbs up and let's jump straight into it. First, you need to get clear on what your boundaries actually are. What is oversharing to you? There are no right and wrong answers to this question. There's just individual lines, and let's face it, the answer may actually change depending on where and who you're working with. Some people are totally cool with being an open book and everyone knowing everything, but other people, not so much. For example, from speaking to many of you career besties in the comments, if a coworker asked you what you did last weekend, I know that some of you are cool with giving kind of a safe, work-appropriate level answer, while others of you don't want to answer that question at all. And if you're really not sure to figure out where your own individual lines are with these work-life boundaries, ask yourself this question. What do you want the patties of the world to know about you? If you haven't seen my workplace villains video, I'm talking about the office gossip. If you don't want anyone at work to know that you're having relationship problems, trying to lose 10 pounds, or getting over a toxic workplace, these would be topics to refrain from talking about at work. Now, it's one thing to know that you have the boundary, but something happens when we start to get really clear on our own work-life boundaries, and honestly, I haven't really seen this be discussed. The next step is to get clear on why that boundary is valid. Undoubtedly, a situation is going to come up when you need to enforce that boundary. It's why you're thinking about it in the first place. And the person who needs that boundary, because let's face it, the people that the boundaries are for are really unhealthy people who aren't just going to accept that you have this boundary. No. They're going to try to shame and bully you into breaking it. Following our example of asking about what you did last weekend, if you don't want to answer in detail, maybe you have a coworker who tries to make you feel bad about it.
I don't know what the big deal is.
Your belief in this boundary is what's going to make you hold the line, and it might even stop them from pushing in the first place. In this phase, answering these questions is really going to help you out. Why am I worthy of boundaries? Why is this boundary important to me? And why is it absurd that anyone wouldn't respect this boundary? Write your answers down, and quite a few things might come up for each of these prompts. Like, you're entitled to privacy, and your privacy is important, and the information isn't relevant to your work or your professional relationships. Answering these prompts is going to help you bring awareness to how valid these boundaries are for you, and will help deepen your belief in how you deserve to have these boundaries respected at work. Plus, energetically, it's going to keep you aligned with your boundaries. And now this brings us to our next step, which is a tactical step. Be ready to not overshare. Obviously, at the most basic level, you're not going to walk into the office and willingly volunteer the information, like how much your boyfriend annoyed you. But that's probably not the problem you're having. The problem really arises when someone asks a question that you're not comfortable with answering, or prods for more information that you're not comfortable disclosing. There are a few tactics here that can really help you out. First, I'm a huge fan of deflection. Dodge the question by changing the topic. Ask a redirecting question about a project at work. Oh, I forgot to ask you about this thing on Project X. Another tactic is to give a non-answer and then direct it back towards them. It was good. Did you end up going to that show you were talking about? Or you can simply make yourself unavailable. I'd love to catch up, but I really need to get to this email. Having these ready to go, and yes, scripting and practicing, can be immensely helpful. Of course, when you're dealing with a patty at work, they're probably not going to give up so easily though. And in those situations where they're really not picking up what you're putting down, humor can come in really handy. Humor makes imposing that boundary a little bit less intense and kind of remove some of the shame and embarrassment that they might experience if you call them out. For example, a couple weeks ago, I was chatting with someone in the comments on one of my videos about how her boss was demanding to see a picture of her boyfriend. Super awkward, right? Saying something like, whoa, that's TMI, isn't it? Paired with your energetic alignment about how important and audacious it would be for them to not respect that work-life boundary, they're gonna be more likely to drop it and not continue pushing because they don't wanna get called out for real. You know, we wanna help them save face whenever possible, but sometimes you do need to call it out. If you've been subtle and respectful and energetically aligned and your coworker just is not getting your work-life boundaries, be ready to be clear and direct. Saying something like, "I'm not comfortable discussing this at work," is totally fair and totally valid. Something that really helps, especially when you get kind of into those awkward phases with enforcing work-life boundaries, is developing with energy. And I've been talking about that quite a bit lately, and I'm actually gonna do a deep dive in my next video. So if you want that to help you prepare, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. And let's face it, it's a vibe we all aspire to, right? And actually this brings me to something that we need to talk about when it comes to work-life boundaries, especially in regards to oversharing. Be ready for the pushback from the toxic coworkers. Especially if you're working with a narcissist, like they don't really understand boundaries. To be clear, getting pushback when you have clearly communicated a work-life boundary is going to be rare. But typically where they're going to push is actually because they're trying to save face. They feel embarrassed for crossing the line. They feel embarrassed for being called out, especially if it's in front of other people, which is why we want to give them the opportunity to save face as much as possible. This is one of the reasons why I encourage you to start with kind of humor and making it light to begin with, so that they're not feeling shame and embarrassment. But another thing that can also be very helpful here, and I've discussed this in other videos before, is to give them a positive identity to live up to when you're enforcing your work-life boundary. Now, knowing how to deal with difficult coworkers when you're getting pushed back is of course going to be really crucial in those extreme circumstances. To help you prepare, I want you to go and watch this video right now to help you get ready to deal with that difficult coworker. But before you go, if this video helped you get ready to stop oversharing and enforce some work-life boundaries, give it a thumbs up. Really helps my channel, makes you my favorite career bestie. It's a win-win situation. As always, my friend, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.